This is the story of Charlie Kirk, a story of ambition, resilience, and the belief that one person, no matter how young, can change the direction of a generation. Charlie Kirk's journey is not just about politics or movements. It is about vision, persistence, and the courage to take action before the world thinks you're ready. Charlie Kirk was born on October 14, 1993, in Arlington Heights, Illinois. He grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in an ordinary family with what seemed like an ordinary life. As a boy, Charlie wasn't destined for the spotlight. He wasn't a child prodigy or a genius student, but he was curious, he was restless, and he had a hunger to understand the world around him. He attended Wheeling High School, where he was just another teenager, walking the same halls as everyone else. But deep inside, Charlie was paying attention to people, to ideas, to opportunities. He knew there had to be more to life than just following the usual path. Every great story has a turning point. For Charlie, it came at 18 years old. While many of his classmates were filling out college applications, Charlie began to think differently. He questioned whether the traditional path college, career, retirement was the only way forward. In 2012, while still a teenager, Charlie founded an organization that would change his life forever, Turning Point USA. He didn't have millions of dollars. He didn't have an established network. All he had was an idea and the determination to make it real. The early days of Turning Point USA were anything but glamorous. Charlie often described how he started with almost nothing, just a folding table, some pamphlets, and the will to keep showing up. He would travel to schools, set up a booth, and speak with students one by one. Most days, only a handful of people cared. Many ignored him. Some laughed, but Charlie didn't quit. He believed that even if only one student listened, it was worth it. Slowly, that persistence began to pay off. By the time Charlie was in his early 20s, Turning Point USA had expanded far beyond anything he could have imagined as a teenager. Hundreds of student chapters were popping up across the country, each one led by young people inspired by his message. For Charlie, this was not just an organization, it was a mission. He believed that if young people were given the tools and the courage to lead, they could shape the future in powerful ways. Students admired his boldness. They saw someone who wasn't much older than them, yet who carried himself like a seasoned leader. Charlie wasn't speaking to them from a textbook or from decades of experience. He was speaking to them as a peer, someone close to their own age, who simply chose to step up and take action. It didn't take long for the media to notice. Here was a young man, barely in his 20s, speaking confidently on stages, building massive student gatherings, and running an organization that was growing at lightning speed. Charlie began appearing on talk shows, podcasts, and at conferences. His sharp debating skills and quick responses made him a sought-after guest. For some, he was an inspiration. For others, he was controversial. But one thing was certain: people were paying attention. His ability to command the spotlight wasn't just about charisma, it was about preparation. Charlie read constantly, studied history, and refined his arguments. He wanted to be ready for any question, any stage, any debate. That discipline set him apart from many others his age. Soon, Charlie began writing. He published books that shared his ideas, his story, and his call to action for young people. These books further established him as a thought leader. He also launched a podcast, giving him a direct voice to millions of listeners. Unlike short interviews or speeches, the podcast allowed him to dive deep, to speak at length, and to connect with audiences in a personal way. The podcast grew rapidly, attracting a loyal following. For many young people, it became their daily source of motivation, news, and energy. But with visibility came criticism. The bigger Turning Point USA became, the more pushback Charlie faced. Not everyone agreed with his ideas, and he often found himself at the center of heated debates. Some campuses pushed back against his events. Some critics dismissed him as too young, too inexperienced, or too bold. But Charlie didn't back down. Instead, he used the criticism as fuel. In his own words, opposition was proof that he was making an impact. And while many might have crumbled under the weight of such pressure, Charlie leaned into it, determined to grow stronger. This period of his life taught him a crucial lesson. Leadership is not about being liked by everyone. It's about staying true to your vision, even when the road is tough. And so, despite the challenges, Charlie pressed on. As the years went on, Turning Point USA began to host larger and larger events. What once started as small student meetups had transformed into national gatherings, filling massive convention halls with thousands of young people. The energy at these events was electric. Students flew in from across the country to listen, learn, and connect. For many, it was their first time being part of something bigger than themselves. They left inspired, motivated, and ready to lead in their own communities. Charlie, now in his mid-20s, had become the face of it all. He was on stage, delivering passionate speeches, shaking hands with students, and reminding them of the power of their generation. For attendees, it wasn't just about ideas, it was about belonging. It was about finding a place where their voices mattered. By this time, Charlie was no longer just a student organizer, he had become a national figure. His name appeared in newspapers, his interviews reached millions, and his organization had grown into a force recognized across the country. For someone who started with nothing but an idea at 18, this level of recognition was a remarkable achievement. Whether people agreed with him or not, they couldn't deny the scale of what he had built. Charlie was also invited to speak at major conferences and summits, sharing the stage with established leaders and public figures. Each appearance was another step in solidifying his role as one of the most prominent young voices of his generation. What made Charlie stand out wasn't just his confidence or his organizational skills. It was his belief that young people could shape the future. In a world where many students were told to wait their turn, Charlie sent a different message. You don't need to wait. You can lead right now. That belief resonated. It tapped into a deep desire among young people to be heard, to matter, and to take action before life passed them by. But success always comes with challenges. Managing a rapidly growing organization meant endless hours of work. Charlie had to learn not just how to inspire people, but how to lead a team, manage resources, and handle crises.
Every year brought new obstacles, criticism in the press, pushback from opponents, the weight of expectations, but Charlie remained steady. He saw every challenge as proof that he was on the right path, and through it all, he never lost sight of the dream he started with, empowering young leaders.
As Charlie matured, so did his voice. The teenager with a folding table had grown into a seasoned speaker with years of experience behind him. His confidence on stage wasn't just youthful energy anymore. It was grounded in thousands of hours of practice, hundreds of speeches, and the relentless pursuit of his mission. He had learned that leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to step into the arena when others hesitate. Charlie Kirk's story is far from over. Still in his early 30s, he has already accomplished what many people never achieve in a lifetime. From a teenager with a simple idea to the leader of a nationwide movement, his journey shows what is possible when passion meets persistence. Turning Point USA, the organization he founded as a teenager, continues to grow, reaching students across the country and shaping countless young leaders. Whether people agree or disagree with Charlie, they cannot ignore the scale of what he has built. It is a legacy in the making, proof that age is not a barrier to influence, and that vision, when paired with relentless effort, can create something truly extraordinary. Charlie's story reminds us of an important truth. greatness doesn't wait for permission. Too often, we believe we need more time, more experience, or more resources before we can pursue our dreams. But Charlie's life shows the opposite. He didn't wait for the perfect moment. He didn't wait until he was older, richer, or more established. He started with nothing, just belief, determination, and the courage to act. That decision changed his life, and it's a decision available to each of us. So what can we learn from Charlie Kirk's journey? 3 powerful lessons stand out. Start before you're ready. You'll never have everything figured out, but action creates momentum. Turn obstacles into fuel. Criticism, rejection, and setbacks are not signs to quit. They're signs you're on the right path. Lead with vision. True leadership isn't about age, experience, or titles. It's about having the courage to step forward when others hesitate. Charlie Kirk's story isn't just about one man. It's about what is possible for anyone bold enough to follow their vision. He was 18 with no degree, no money, and no connections. Yet today, he is a national figure with a movement that spans the country. The message is simple. If you have a dream, don't wait. Start now. Because sometimes, the biggest turning points in life begin with the smallest step forward. And just like Charlie, your story could be the one that inspires the next generation.